Gospel reading for tonight is from John. Standing near his cross were Jesus' mother, his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the follower he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Dear woman, here is your son." And he said to the follower, "Here is your mother." From that time on, the follower took her to live in his home. Here ends the gospel reading. I did a lot of research for my presentation tonight, and I found many sites and much information about Mary, the mother of Jesus. All of these sites agreed on two things. Mary was the mother of Jesus, and she was married to Joseph. Not all of the sites agreed that she was even a virgin. So I gathered all of this information and I put together what to me was plausible. And that's what I will present to you tonight. What I think is plausible about Mary. Mary was born in Jerusalem to wealthy parents, Jonathan and Anne, also called Heli and Anna. They lived close to the temple, and they supplied sheep and goats to the temple for food and for milk, and also for sacrifice. Jonathan was wealthy in the terms of his day. Her family was devout, and they followed the Jewish law and observed Jewish customs. Her parents were married for several years before they had a child. They prayed, they fasted, they sacrificed, they gave to the poor. No child came to them until they made a bargain with God, or a promise to God, that any child born to them would be dedicated to him. And Mary was the result of that promise. When she was 3 years old, Mary was taken to the temple and placed in the hands of the priests. She was educated by them. She was trained by them. That doesn't mean that she never saw her parents. After all, they lived next door. In my scenario, Mary freely runs back and forth between her parents and the temple. While she was at the temple, Mary was trained to obey. She was trained to serve. She was told to accept God's will in her life. When the time came for her to be betrothed, the priests and her father chose a God-fearing, kind man named Joseph of Nazareth. That's not to say that he had money. Their concern for Mary was that she be in a house that would treat her with kindness. Mary then followed the custom of her time, and she went to live with Joseph's family in Nazareth to learn to be a daughter of that house and to learn to be a wife to Joseph. It was during her time there that the angel of the Lord came to her and told her that she had been chosen to be the mother of Jesus. Mary's early training in obedience and acceptance to God's will, I believe, made it easy for her to accept this revelation. From the time she was 3 years old, Mary had been trained to obey the will of God and to be humble. She humbly accepted the will of God for her life. When Joseph and his family found out she was pregnant, they were not happy. And who would be? They were not only embarrassed for themselves, they were afraid for Mary. The penalty of adultery was death by stoning. I believe Mary was sent to her relative Elizabeth to protect her from that fate. I believe she was sent to Elizabeth with the intent that she would bear her child there and live quietly in the obscurity of this small town. God had other plans. He came to Joseph, who was also a very devout, God-fearing man, and reassured Joseph that Mary's story of the angel and the holy conception was true. So Mary was brought back to the family home in Nazareth. I also believe that Mary was what we nowadays would call a surrogate mother for Jesus. I believe that Jesus is totally and completely God. God used Mary's body to shelter, to nourish, and to bring Jesus into this world. I do not believe that Jesus was biologically part of Mary any more than he was biologically part of Joseph. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. I'm not going to dwell on that part of the story because we all know it so well. After the birth, Joseph decided to stay in Bethlehem so that Mary could recover from the ordeal of giving birth and so that the child could become stronger. It was there that he was taken to the temple and circumcised and dedicated in accordance with Jewish law and custom. That day at the temple, when Mary was approached by this old man and this old woman, she was astounded that they too knew that the child she held was a holy child. Mary knew, and Joseph knew, but they were astounded that others also knew the child was holy. The surprises kept coming and coming while Mary and Joseph were in Bethlehem. Mary was astounded again when 3 strangers appeared at her door, saying they had been guided to her by a star, and that they had come to worship the child born King of the Jews. She was even more astonished when they opened their packs and brought forth gifts of great value. She was even more astounded when Joseph came to her in the middle of the night and said, "Get up immediately, pack what we need. The child is in danger. We're leaving." God guided the family to Egypt, where they sold the valuable gifts that had been given Jesus to support their family while they lived in Egypt. Joseph came to Mary again and said, "It's safe, we can go home." And they returned to Nazareth to live a quiet, uncomplicated life. Or so they thought. Being devout Jews, Mary and Joseph made pilgrimages on feast days or feast holidays to Jerusalem, like everyone else in their culture. And it was on one of these trips that they misplaced Jesus and had to return to the temple to find him. Mary knew that her child was holy, but even she was amazed at the things he was teaching the leaders of the synagogue. Jesus was a loving, respectful son. So when his parents said that he needed to come home with them, he did. Instead of following his inclination to stay at the temple, he was obedient to his parents and returned to Nazareth with him, where he grew. Mary's second appearance in the Bible was at the wedding feast. She knew her son could do whatever he said to be done. So she was confident when she asked him, "There's no wine?" The hosts, who are friends of ours, who are relatives of ours, are embarrassed. Provide some wine. With the confidence only a mother can have in her son, she knew he respected her enough as his parent to comply with her wishes. And there was wine. I believe that by that time, Joseph had died, and Jesus, as the eldest son in the family, was responsible for the welfare of his mother. I also believe that this was the time when Mary herself became a follower of Jesus. That she actually traveled with him as he chose the men that would become his disciples. I believe that she supported him and the disciples by helping with the cooking and the daily I don't believe that Mary had any biological children of her own. I know that in the Bible there are references made to brothers and sisters of Jesus. I believe that these were close relatives of Jesus, maybe cousins or stepchildren of Joseph, stepchildren of Mary from other wives of Joseph. I believe that because of our gospel reading, Jesus provided for his mother Mary as he was dying. He provided a son for her. Why would he have to do that if he had brothers that would step up and care for her after his death? Why did he feel it necessary to choose his best friend to care for his mother if there were brothers, biological brothers, sons of Mary, to care for her? The death of Mary is also shrouded in mystery, and there are two theories. One is that she never physically died, but was taken into heaven as Jesus was taken into heaven. The other theory is that she did indeed have a physical death, but then was raised to life and then ascended into heaven. I don't have any strong feelings either way. That part of the story means very little to my faith. It's an interesting thing, but faith-wise, to me anyway, it doesn't matter that much. What does matter to me and my faith is that Mary's death is not the end of her story. All over the world, through all the ages, people have been reporting apparitions or visions of Mary. She has appeared in France, in Ireland. She's appeared in Czechoslovakia. She even appeared in Wisconsin. Back in the 1800s, there is a recorded vision of Mary in Wisconsin. In all of these appearances, Mary has had a continuing theme to her messages. She has identified herself as the Virgin Mother of Jesus. She has asked people to pray. She has asked people to take care of the poor, the widows, the orphans. She has told people to repent of their sins. She has told people to worship the one God. She has told people to love one another as Jesus loved them, and to forgive one another as they have been forgiven. That's her reoccurring theme from her first appearance back in 15 something something to many recorded appearances even in the year 2015. Not all of them are substantiated, of course. The Catholic Church has substantiated only 9 of them. But if she can appear 9 times, who says she can't appear 109 times? Mary is a very common name. My grandmother's name was Mary. I'm sure many of you know someone named Mary. This Mary, although she had a common name, had a very uncommon life. She set an example for us of motherly love and sacrifice. Mary first started being revered when Christianity was just moving into what is now Europe. Missionaries were coming and they wanted to convert the pagan people of the area to Christianity. The pagans of that time had female deities. So the Christian missionaries offered Mary in place of those female deities. They made Mary attractive to the pagans who culturally and spiritually needed a female figure, not to worship, but to revere. So Mary became an important tool in the conversion from pagans to Christianity. She became an important figure in the growth of Christianity. God was still using her. God used her when she was alive. God was using her after her death so that His will could be done. Mary is revered by Catholics, Protestants, Muslims, and Hindus alike. In every one of the holy books of these major religions, the story of Mary and the birth of Jesus is recorded. Again, I say, what I have shared with you tonight is just what is plausible to me.